How important are plants in forming a livable and renewable society and protecting the environment? Plants are absolutely essential, arguably foundational, to forming a sustainable society and protecting the environment. They underpin nearly every major ecosystem service that supports human life, biodiversity, and planetary stability. Without healthy plant life, including forests, grasslands, crops, and even microscopic algae, life as we know it would collapse. Here's a breakdown of their critical roles, backed by science. Oxygen production and air quality. Through photosynthesis, plants convert sunlight, water, and CO2 into energy while releasing oxygen. Terrestrial plants and vegetation contribute roughly half of Earth's oxygen supply. The other half comes from oceanic phytoplankton, which are plant-like organisms. They also filter pollutants, improving urban air quality and reducing respiratory health risks. In a sustainable society, this natural air factory reduces reliance on energy-intensive technologies for oxygen or purification. Climate regulation and carbon sequestration. Plants are Earth's primary defense against climate change. They absorb billions of tons of CO2 annually via photosynthesis, storing it in biomass, trunks, leaves, roots, and soils. Forests alone sequester vast amounts, e.g., an average tree captures 10 to 48 kilograms of CO2 per year, and large-scale afforestation or regenerative farming can lock away thousands of tons per hectare. Perennial plants, deep-rooted natives, and diverse crops enhance long-term storage while building soil carbon. This directly mitigates global warming, stabilizes temperatures, and supports adaptation, e.g., roots prevent erosion during floods. In sustainable societies, protecting and expanding plant cover, via reforestation, agroforestry, and green infrastructure, is one of the most cost-effective climate solutions, often outperforming tech-only approaches. Biodiversity and ecosystem stability. Plants form the base of all food webs and habitats. They support pollinators, insects, birds, and mammals, creating resilient ecosystems that resist pests, diseases, and extreme weather. Diverse plant communities, native species especially boost overall biodiversity, which in turn enhances ecosystem services like pollination, critical for 1/3 of our food, and natural pest control. Loss of plant diversity triggers cascading failures, soil degradation or species extinctions. A sustainable society relies on this foundation. Monoculture farming weakens it, while biodiversity-rich agriculture strengthens resilience and food security. Soil health, water conservation, and erosion control. Plant roots anchor soil, preventing erosion and landslides while adding organic matter that improves fertility and water retention. They regulate the water cycle through transpiration, returning moisture to the air, and filtration, cleaning runoff. In urban or agricultural settings, plants reduce flooding, recharge groundwater, and combat desertification. Sustainable practices like cover cropping or native plant buffers turn this into a regenerative loop, maintaining productive land for generations without chemical inputs. Food, materials, and economic foundations for sustainability. Plants provide nearly all our food, directly or via livestock feed, plus medicines, timber, fibers, biofuels, and bioplastics. Sustainable agriculture, rooted in plant diversity, regenerative methods, and reduced waste, aligns with UN Sustainable Development Goals, zero hunger, climate action, life on land, and responsible production. Plant-based systems, permaculture, vertical farming, or diverse cropping, lower environmental footprints compared to resource-intensive alternatives, enabling circular economies and reducing emissions from supply chains. Broader human and societal benefits. Beyond basics, plants cool cities, reducing heat islands, boost mental health, and inspire innovation. Biomimicry. They enable ecological intensification in farming, where biodiversity drives higher yields with fewer inputs. Plants aren't just important, they are irreplaceable infrastructure for a sustainable society. They regulate climate, sustain life, purify essentials, and provide the raw materials for low-impact living. Threats like deforestation, habitat loss, and monocultures undermine this. Protecting and restoring plant diversity, through conservation, rewilding, sustainable farming, and urban greening, is non-negotiable for environmental protection and long-term human prosperity. Individuals and societies can contribute by planting natives, supporting regenerative agriculture, and reducing consumption that drives plant loss. The evidence is clear: a thriving plant world equals a thriving planet. Plant-inspired technologies, or biomimicry, copy nature's 3.8 billion-year-old engineering solutions, especially plants' ultra-efficient photosynthesis, transpiration, structural resilience, and adaptive systems, to create clean energy, resource-efficient buildings, and regenerative urban ecosystems. These innovations could power society by generating storable solar fuels, decentralizing energy production, and slashing fossil fuel dependence, while transforming cities into self-sustaining forests that produce their own power, cool themselves, manage water, and sequester carbon. Unlike traditional tech, they are regenerative, low-waste, and adaptive, enabling truly circular, net-positive systems. Energy production, artificial photosynthesis and leaf-like solar harvesters. Plants convert sunlight, water, and CO2 into energy-rich sugars with 1 to 2% efficiency in nature, but their layered structure, pigment arrays, and charge separation mechanisms are masterpieces of optimization. Biomimicry replicates this at industrial scales for solar fuels that store energy chemically, unlike intermittent electricity from panels. Artificial leaves devices, these mimic the leaves like harvesting chlorophyll with semiconductors, e.g., perovskites, and catalysts, e.g., copper nanofloers or cobalt nickel alloys. Sunlight splits water into hydrogen and oxygen or reduces CO2 into hydrocarbons, formate, or ethylene. Recent breakthroughs include University of Basel's plant-modeled molecule that stores 4 charges simultaneously, 2 positive, 2 negative, under light, a key step towards stable solar fuels. Lawrence Berkeley Lab's self-contained system using perovskite absorbers and copper catalyst to produce C2 chemicals, e.g., ethane ethylene directly from sunlight, CO2, and water. Wurzburg Soldi stacked nanosystems that replicate plant pigment protein complexes for rapid charge transfer, achieving higher efficiencies than early prototypes, now reaching 10% solar to hydrogen. These produce on-demand, carbon-neutral fuels for vehicles, grids, or industry, storable for nights winter, unlike batteries. Solar trees and leaf mimetic panels, thin-film photovoltaics shaped like leaves, or arranged in Fibonacci spirals from sunflowers maximize light capture across angles and surfaces. Companies like Solar Botanic integrate wind harvesting branches for hybrid output. In cities, these replace streetlights or rooftops, powering homes while looking natural. Societal impact. Scaled globally, artificial photosynthesis could supply hydrogen for steel fertilizer production, replace gasoline, and enable energy-positive communities. PNNL workshops and projects like the Japanese Apollo Initiative show pathways to grid-scale clean energy, reducing emissions 80 to 100% in power sectors while using abundant sunlight CO2. Climate regulation and cooling. Transpiration-inspired systems. Plants cool themselves and surroundings via transpiration. Roots pull water, leaves evaporate it, latent heat flux, shading plus evaporative cooling. Urban trees maintain massive cooling even in extreme heat waves. Biomimetic facades and evaporative surfaces. Engineered skin with porous, plant-like channels or hydrogels mimic stomatal control. Water evaporates passively, dropping building temps 5 to 10 degrees Celsius without electricity. Living walls integrate real plants for authentic transpiration. Adaptive shading. Facades that open close like stomata or use leaf vein patterns for dynamic light heat management. How biomimetic architecture links built-in natural environments. Building enclosure urban payoff, cuts air conditioning energy, city's #1 electricity user, by 30 to 50%, combats heat islands, and lowers peak grid demand. In green cities, widespread deployment plus urban forest creates microclimates that reduce overall urban energy needs dramatically. Water and resource loops, root, leaf, and ecosystem mimicry. Plants filter, harvest, and cycle water perfectly. Biomimicry copies, foliar root absorption and fog collection, surfaces with hydrophilic hydrophobic patterns, like some leaves, pull atmospheric moisture or desalinate via mangrove-inspired membranes. Closed-loop systems, buildings mimic tree nutrient cycling, gray water filtered through plant root-like bioreactors, then reused for transpiration, cooling, or irrigation. This powers society by slashing desalination purification energy and enables water-positive cities even in arid zones. Sahara Forest Project concepts, materials and structures, self-healing and lightweight designs. Plant cell walls, cellulose, lignin, inspire, self-healing concrete polymers, microcapsules or vascular networks release healing agents when cracked, like plant wound responses, extending building life 2 to 3 times and cutting maintenance. Lightweight composites, bamboo-like hollow structures or leaf vein lattices for stronger, lighter skyscrapers that use less material energy to build. These reduce construction's 40% share of global emissions while enabling resilient, adaptive cities. Future green cities, regenerative forest-like ecosystems. Cities modeled as functioning forests integrate all above, vertical integration, solar trees plus living walls plus green roofs produce power, food, urban ag, oxygen, and cooling while sequestering carbon. Decentralized plus circular, algae bioreactors or slime mold-inspired networks optimize energy-water distribution like natural ecosystems. Buildings achieve homeostasis, self-regulating temp humidity. Whole system examples, projects emulate oak tree closed loops, waste to energy to water, or create positive campuses with multi-tiered green roofs filtering storm water. Powering society at scale, these cities become energy exporters. Rooftops facades generate surplus solar fuels electricity for transport grids. Emissions drop near zero. Resilience rises against climate extremes. Real precedents, Bosco vertical style but tech enhanced, plus concepts like Mobius greenhouses show pathways to net positive urban metabolism. Overall transformation and feasibility. Plant-inspired tech shifts society from extractive to regenerative, abundant, decentralized clean power, solar fuels plus PV hybrids, drastically lower building energy, passive cooling plus self-regulation, circular resources. and cities that actively restore biodiversity. Climate challenges remain: scaling efficiency, cost, and integration, but advances, multi-charge molecules, perovskite hybrids, plus falling material costs make deployment realistic within decades. Combined with policy, biomimicry, and building codes, they enable sustainable prosperity, powering billions cleanly while cities thrive like ancient forests. By copying plants' elegant solutions, we unlock a future where technology and nature are indistinguishable, self-powered, resilient, and truly green. This isn't sci-fi. Prototypes and breakthroughs already demonstrate the blueprint. Plant-inspired technologies, biomimicry as the foundation for a regenerative society and future green cities. For over 3.8 billion years, plants have perfected the art of survival on a finite planet. Through photosynthesis, they convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into energy and oxygen with elegant efficiency. Via transpiration, they cool vast landscapes while cycling water. Their roots stabilize soil, their structures distribute resources without waste, and their cells repair damage seamlessly. In an era of climate crisis and resource scarcity, biomimicry, the conscious emulation of these natural strategies, offers humanity a proven blueprint. Plant-inspired technologies are not mere novelties, they represent a paradigm shift toward decentralized, carbon-neutral energy systems, self-regulating architecture, and cities that function like living forests. By scaling these innovations, society can achieve abundant clean power, drastically reduced emissions, and resilient urban ecosystems that actively restore the environment rather than deplete it. As breakthroughs accelerate, this vision moves from concept to reality. Artificial photosynthesis, turning sunlight into storable solar fuels. At the heart of plant-inspired energy is artificial photosynthesis, which replicates the leaf's ability to split water and reduce CO2 into usable fuels. Unlike conventional solar panels that produce intermittent electricity, these systems generate chemical fuels, hydrogen, methanol, or hydrocarbons, that can be stored indefinitely and deployed across grids, transport, and heavy industry. A landmark breakthrough, where chemists developed a plant-modeled molecule capable of storing 4 charges simultaneously, 2 positive and 2 negative, under sunlight. This addresses a core challenge: maintaining charge separation long enough for fuel production, even in low-light conditions typical of real-world use. The innovation brings solar fuels closer to viability for carbon-neutral hydrogen, methanol, and synthetic gasoline. Complementing this, a laboratory unveiled a self-contained artificial leaf that combines perovskite absorbers with copper catalyst to produce valuable carbon chemicals, precursors to plastics, fuels, and more directly from sunlight, CO2, and water. Efficiencies are climbing toward 10% solar to hydrogen, surpassing early prototypes. Governments are accelerating commercialization. A roadmap targeting electrocatalysis and photocatalysis advances for industrial-scale deployment by 2040. An initiative similarly outlines strategic research agendas, key performance indicators, and blueprints for solar fuel devices. These roadmaps emphasize hybrid systems that integrate microbes or nanomaterials, pushing beyond 1 to 2% natural efficiency into practical territory. Scaled globally, artificial photosynthesis could decarbonize steel, fertilizer, aviation, and shipping, sectors resistant to electrification, while using atmospheric CO2 as feedstock. Decentralized solar fuel farms on rooftops or deserts would empower communities, reducing reliance on fossil infrastructure and enabling energy-positive regions. Solar trees and leaf mimetic harvesting, efficient, adaptive power in urban spaces. Plants optimize light capture through dynamic orientation and fractal arrangements. Think sunflower spirals. Biomimetic solar arrays replicate this for superior performance in constrained urban environments. Solar trees, structures with photovoltaic leaves arranged in Fibonacci patterns or branching forms, maximize surface area and capture sunlight from multiple angles without mechanical tracking. Real-world installations, such as Singapore's super trees or smaller street-level solar trees, already demonstrate hybrid solar wind output while providing shade and aesthetic integration. These systems outperform flat panels in cities by utilizing vertical space and adapting to varying sun paths. Thin-film photovoltaics shaped like leaves or integrated into facades turn buildings into power plants. In future green cities, solar trees line streets, power streetlights and EVs, and feed surplus into community microgrids, creating decentralized energy democracy. Transpiration-inspired cooling, passive, zero-energy climate control for buildings. Plants cool themselves and surroundings through transpiration. Roots draw water, leaves evaporate it, releasing latent heat while shading. Urban trees alone can offset massive solar loads. Biomimetic facades translate this into engineered systems. Porous, hydrogel-coated surfaces or strometal-like louvers enable passive evaporative cooling, dropping indoor temperatures 5 to 10 degrees Celsius without electricity. Living walls and green facades amplify the effect through real plant evapotranspiration. Adaptive shading mimics cactus pores or leaf veins, opening and closing in response to heat and humidity. Studies show these designs cut air conditioning demand, the largest urban electricity consumer, by 30 to 50%, slashing peak grid loads and combating heat islands. In hot climates, cactus-inspired guitar buildings or termite mound ventilation principles achieve 90% cooling energy savings. As 2026 sustainable construction trends emphasize climate-responsive envelopes, these facades become standard, making buildings net energy producers rather than consumers. Self-healing materials and closed-loop resource systems, resilience from plant structures. Plant cell walls and vascular systems inspire durable, regenerative materials. Self-healing composites and concrete embed microcapsules or vascular networks that release repair agents upon cracking, extending building lifespans 2 to 3 times while cutting maintenance emissions. Inspired by plant wound responses or bone regeneration, these materials support circular economies. Roots and leaves also model water and nutrient cycling. Fog harvesting surfaces, mangrove-inspired desalination membranes, and bioreactors turn gray water into cooling or irrigation loops. Cities become water positive, even in arid zones. The green city as a functioning forest, integrated, regenerative urban ecosystems. When these technologies converge, cities transform into urban forests that produce power, food, oxygen, and biodiversity while sequestering carbon. Vertical integration, solar trees atop living walls, green roofs with photoreactors, and adaptive envelopes, creates self-regulating systems mimicking forest homeostasis. Pioneering examples include Milan's Bosco vertical towers, now evolving with tech-enhanced facades. Concepts like Stefano Bori's vertical forest envision entire districts where buildings breathe, cool, and power themselves. Slime mold algorithms optimize energy and water distribution like natural networks. Algae bioreactors and facades generate biomass fuel while purifying air. These cities export surplus solar fuels and electricity, achieve near-zero emissions, and enhance resident well-being through biophilic design. They withstand extremes via resilience borrowed from diverse ecosystems, turning urban metabolism regenerative rather than extractive. Challenges, feasibility, and the path forward. Scaling remains key, efficiencies must rise, costs fall, and integration with policy, building codes mandating biomimicry is essential. Yet advances like four-charge molecules, perovskite hybrids, national roadmaps, signal rapid progress. Material innovations like bio-based self-healing composites further accelerate adoption. Plant-inspired technologies offer more than efficiency, they provide a philosophical reset. By designing with nature's intelligence, society powers itself abundantly and cleanly while cities heal the planet. The future is not one of scarcity and concrete, but of abundance and living systems, where buildings breathe like leaves, streets harvest like forests, and humanity thrives in harmony with the biosphere that has sustained life for billions of years. The blueprint exists. The only question is how quickly we choose to build it. Plant-inspired technologies, rooted in biomimicry, emulate the extraordinarily efficient, adaptive, and low-waste mechanisms that plants have evolved over billions of years. These innovations translate biological principles, such as photosynthesis, transpiration, structural optimization, self-repair, and resource cycling, into engineered systems for energy production, climate control, materials, and urban infrastructure. Below is a detailed explanation of how the most prominent plant-inspired technologies function, including their core mechanisms, key components, and recent advancements. Artificial photosynthesis and artificial leaves, mimicking energy conversion. Natural mechanism. In plants, photosynthesis occurs in chloroplasts where chlorophyll absorbs sunlight, exciting electrons to create charge separation. Water is split, photolysis, releasing oxygen, while electrons reduce CO2 into glucose via the Calvin cycle. Efficiency in nature is low, 1 to 2%, but the process is remarkably stable and uses abundant inputs, sunlight, water, CO2. How artificial systems work: light absorption, perovskite semiconductors or organic polymers mimic chlorophyll, capturing a broad solar spectrum and generating electron-hole pairs. Charge separation and transport, multi-layered structures, often di-stacks or pi-stacked parylene bisamides, prevent recombination, allowing charges to migrate efficiently, similar to plant pigment protein complexes. Catalysis, catalysts split water or reduce CO2. Copper nanoflow or electrocatalysts, inspired by enzyme active sites, produce C2 chemicals, e.g., ethylene, ethane, or formate. In biohybrid designs, bacterial enzymes enhance selectivity. Product formation, fuels like hydrogen, via water splitting, formate, methanol, or hydrocarbons emerge directly, storable for grids, transport, or industry. Key breakthroughs: University of Basel's molecule stores 4 charges, 2 positive, 2 negative, stably under dim light, enabling realistic outdoor conditions. Nature Chemistry, Aug. 2025. Cambridge's semi-artificial leaf uses organic semiconductors plus enzymes to convert CO2 formate with high yield, powering downstream reactions. Joule, November, 2025. Lawrence Berkeley Labs' perovskite copper device produces carbon precursors for plastics fuels in a postage stamp-sized unit. Nature Catalysis, April, 2025. Inus modular artificial leaf achieves 11.2% solar to hydrogen efficiency, surpassing the 10% commercial benchmark, with long-term stability. Nature Communications, June, 2025. These systems operate without external voltage in many designs, using only sunlight, and recycle CO2, making them carbon neutral or negative. Transpiration-inspired passive cooling, evaporative and adaptive thermal regulation. Natural mechanism: plants transpire water through stomata, evaporating it from leaves to create cooling, latent heat absorption, while roots pull replacement water via capillary action. This process also drives nutrient transport and maintains leaf temperature. How engineered systems function: evaporative surfaces, porous hydrogels, capillary channels, or biomimetic membranes mimic stomatal control. Water is wicked to the surface and evaporates, absorbing heat and dropping temperatures 5 to 10 degrees Celsius passively. Adaptive features: smart louvers or vein-patterned facades open close in response to humidity temperature, like stomata, regulating airflow and moisture release. Integration, combined with living walls, real plants, or water recycling loops that harvest condensate or gray water, creating closed cycles. Additional effects: hydrophilic hydrophobic patterns, inspired by leaf surfaces direct water flow, prevent pooling, and enhance fog collection in arid designs. Recent applications: biomimetic envelopes reduce air conditioning by 30 to 50% in hot climates. Systems draw from termite mounds, ventilation and plant transpiration for hybrid cooling, achieving 3 to 5 degrees Celsius indoor drops with minimal energy. In skyscrapers, evaporative facades and green walls lower peak demand and combat urban heat islands. Self-healing materials, vascular and cellular repair mechanisms. Natural mechanism: plants repair wounds via callus formation, resin release, and vascular reconnection. Cell walls, cellulose-lignin networks, provide strength, while compartmentalization isolates damage. How artificial versions operate: vascular networks, microchannels or capillary structures, like plant xylem phloem embedded in polymers concrete deliver healing agents, e.g., monomers, catalysts, to cracks. Intrinsic healing, reversible chemical bonds, e.g., Diels-Alder reactions in polymers reform when damaged, allowing repeated repair without additives. Extrinsic healing, microcapsules rupture on impact, releasing epoxies or bacteria, bacillus-inspired, that mineralize cracks, similar to plant wound responses. Hybrid approaches, brush particle polymers create hierarchical channels for flexible healing, combining strength and repair, e.g., Carnegie Mellon 2025 hybrid. Advancements, compare Zeoltech composites repair in 1 minute with heat, and during 60+ cycles. New polymers transition solid to liquid on impact then reseal, preventing penetration. Other key plant-inspired mechanisms: solar trees leaf mimetic arrays, Fibonacci spirals and branching maximize light capture without trackers. Thin film leaves integrate into urban elements for decentralized power. Water harvesting and filtration, lotus effect surfaces, superhydrophobic wax nanostructures, repel dirt, nomad beetle plus plant fog collection patterns harvest atmospheric moisture via alternating hydrophilic hydrophobic zones. Structural optimization, bamboo-like hollow tubes or leaf vein lattices create lightweight, strong composites for buildings vehicles, reducing material use. Overall principles across technologies: efficiency through hierarchy, multi-scale structures, nano to macro optimize function, as in natural leaves, regeneration and circularity, systems self-regulate, repair, and recycle inputs, CO2, water, like ecosystems. Decentralization, small, modular units enable widespread deployment, reducing transmission losses. These technologies are advancing rapidly towards scalability. Artificial photosynthesis now hits commercial viability thresholds, 10% efficiency, passive cooling integrates into 2025+ building codes, and self-healing materials extend product lifespans dramatically. By faithfully replicating plant mechanisms, rather than fighting them, humanity gains tools that are abundant, resilient, and harmonious with planetary limits, powering a truly sustainable future. The best natural solutions and plant-based technologies for a sustainable society and industries are those that directly harness or emulate plants and ecosystems. These deliver multiple benefits: carbon sequestration, biodiversity restoration, resource efficiency, resilience, and economic value, while being cost-effective and scalable. According to reports, nature-based solutions can deliver up to 27% of needed global emissions reductions and must scale up to meet climate and biodiversity targets. Plant-based innovations, biomaterials, regenerative systems, and plant-inspired biomimicry, artificial photosynthesis, adaptive designs, form the core of a circular bioeconomy that replaces fossil-dependent industries. These outperform purely technological fixes because they are regenerative, low-waste, and self-sustaining. Below are the highest impact options, prioritized by proven scalability, co-benefits: nature-based solutions, ecosystem protection, management, and restoration. NBS work by leveraging plants' natural processes, photosynthesis, root systems, transpiration at landscape scale. They address climate, water, food security, and disaster risks simultaneously. Regenerative agriculture and agroforestry core practices include cover cropping, no-till farming, diverse crop rotations, holistic grazing, and integrating tree shrubs into fields or pastures. Plants build soil organic matter, enhance water retention, and sequester carbon, 15 to 25% more than conventional methods. Agroforestry adds perennial trees for extra shade, habitat, and income. Fruits, timber 2026 impact. Market for regenerative practices projected to reach billions, reduces synthetic inputs by up to 30%, boosts yields long-term, and supports biodiversity. Farms transition to resilient systems amid climate volatility. Reforestation and forest protection, restoring degraded forests or protecting intact ones via natural regeneration or assisted planting. Tropical forests alone offer massive sequestration. WEF highlights growing corporate finance and carbon markets for high-integrity projects in 2026. Best for industries needing offsets or supply chain resilience, e.g., commodities, mangroving, wetland restoration, planting or protecting coastal mangroves acts as green sea walls, buffering storms, sequestering carbon at high rates, and supporting fisheries. Community-led projects in places like Pakistan have expanded coverage dramatically. 2026 impact. Critical for adaptation in the global south, delivers livelihood and disaster risk reduction co-benefits. These NBS are the foundation for sustainable society because they restore ecosystem services that underpin all industries, food, water, and climate stability, while creating jobs in restoration and rural economies. Plant-based materials and bioeconomy technologies. Directly using plant biomass or microbes fed by plants creates circular, biodegradable alternatives to fossil plastics, concrete, and fuels. These close material loops and cut emissions in manufacturing and construction, which account for 40% of global emissions. Hemp-derived products, bioplastics, hempcrete, textiles. Industrial hemp grows rapidly with low inputs, sequesters carbon, and yields fibers, herds, and oils. Hemp bioplastics replace petroleum plastics. Hempcrete, hemp lime mix, offers superior insulation and carbon-negative construction. Market expanding rapidly toward 2030 with 13 to 20% CAGR in bioplastics. Industrial impact. Construction, packaging, and automotive sectors achieve lower embodied carbon and biodegradability. Mycelium, fungal, composites. Grown on plant waste, e.g., agricultural residues, mycelium forms strong, lightweight materials in days. Used for packaging, insulation, leather alternatives, and even structural bricks. Fully compostable and low energy to produce. 2026 advancement, scaling in consumer goods and building, replaces polystyrene and synthetic foams. Algae and biomass biofuels products. Algae bioreactors or fast-growing plants convert CO2 and sunlight into biofuels, bioplastics, or proteins. Closed-loop systems integrate with wastewater treatment. Best for energy and food industries seeking drop-in replacements with negative emissions potential. These technologies drive a plant-powered bioeconomy. Renewable feedstocks replace finite resources, enabling zero-waste manufacturing and construction. Plant-inspired biomimicry technologies. Copying plants' optimized designs, leaf structure, transpiration, self-repair, creates efficient, adaptive tech for energy in buildings. Artificial photosynthesis. Artificial leaves. Devices mimic chlorophyll layers with semiconductors and catalysts to split water or reduce CO2 into storable fuels, hydrogen, hydrocarbons, using only sunlight. Breakthroughs, perovskite copper systems, multi-charge molecules push efficiencies toward commercial viability. 10% solar to fuel. Societal impact. Decarbonizes heavy industry and transport with carbon-neutral fuels. Artificial photosynthesis as an alternative source of renewable energy. Biomimetic solar trees and transpiration-inspired cooling. Photovoltaic leaves in Fibonacci patterns maximize light capture. Facades with stromatal-like pores enable passive evaporative cooling. 5 to 10 degrees Celsius drops without electricity. Integrated living walls amplify real plant effects. Urban payoff. Green cities generate decentralized power while slashing cooling energy. 30 to 50% reductions. Self-healing and adaptive plant mimetic materials. Vascular networks or reversible bonds, inspired by plant wound response, enable concrete polymers to repair cracks autonomously, extending infrastructure life. These innovations make industries, energy, construction, urban planning regenerative rather than extractive. Integration, powering sustainable society and industries. Combining these creates holistic systems, agriculture, food, regenerative plus agroforestry for resilient supply chains. Construction, manufacturing, hempcrete, mycelium, and biomimetic designs for net zero buildings. Energy, artificial photosynthesis plus biomass for storable renewables. Cities, urban forests, green infrastructure, and solar trees for self-sustaining, cooling, biodiverse habitats. Why these are the best? They align with planetary boundaries, deliver triple bottom line benefits, people, planet, profit, and are backed by rising corporate investment, maturing carbon markets, and policy frameworks. Unlike high-tech only paths, they build resilience against tipping points while creating jobs and equity. To implement, prioritize high-integrity projects with community involvement, scale finance, public-private partnerships, and integrate into policy, building codes, subsidies. Shift from fossil to nature. Individuals and businesses can start with regenerative sourcing, biomaterial procurement, and urban greening. The evidence is clear. Plants and nature-inspired systems are not just solutions, they are the smartest infrastructure for a thriving, sustainable future. Nature-based solutions, ecosystem-scale plant processes, regenerative agriculture and agroforestry. Plants drive carbon sequestration through photosynthesis. Leaves absorb CO2 and sunlight, converting them into sugars and biomass via the Calvin cycle. Rubisco enzyme fixes CO2 into 3-PGA. In regenerative systems, this biomass is returned to soil as roots, exudates, sugars, amino acids, and crop residues instead of being removed or tilled. No-till and cover crops keep soil undisturbed, allowing fungal hyphae and microbial networks to remain intact. Microbes, bacteria, archaea, fungi, decompose organic matter in the soil microbial factory, releasing enzymes that mineralize carbon into stable humic compounds. Deep-rooted perennials and trees in agroforestry add massive root biomass. Roots exude 20 to 40% of photosynthesis directly into soil, feeding mycorrhizal fungi that glue particles into aggregates. These aggregates physically protect carbon from oxidation for decades to centuries. Compost, manure, and biochar, charred plant residues further feed microbes while increasing cation exchange capacity. The net result, soil organic carbon rises 0.5 to 2% per year, sequestering 5 to 20 tons CO2/high annually while improving water infiltration. Roots create macropores and nutrient cycling. Legumes fix and via rhizobia symbiosis. Reforestation and forest protection. Mature trees and natural regeneration use the same photosynthetic engine but at forest scale. Canopy layers maximize light capture. Fallen leaves and roots build soil carbon pools identical to regenerative ag but deeper, up to 1 and 2 meters. Protection prevents decomposition of stored carbon. Intact forests hold 200 to 500 tons CH. Assisted planting accelerates early biomass accumulation. Mangrove and wetland restoration. Mangrove trees, e.g., Rhizophora, have specialized pneumatophores and crop roots that allow oxygen diffusion into waterlogged anaerobic soil via parenchyma tissue. Roots trap river sediments and organic detritus, building soil upward at 1 to 10 mm year. In anaerobic conditions, microbial decomposition is slow. Lock-in carbon has been like soil for millennia. Mangroves sequester 3 to 5x more carbon per hectare than tropical forests. The root matrix dissipates wave energy, up to 75% reduction, and accretes sediment, raising land against sea level rise. Biodiversity emerges because roots shelter juvenile fish, crabs, and shrimp. Larvae hide in a tangled structure, gaining protection from predators while feeding on detritus broken down by bacteria. Plant-based materials and bioeconomy technologies. Hemp-derived products, hempcrete, bioplastics, textiles. Industrial hemp. Cannabis sativa grows 3 to 5 meters in 90 to 120 days, fixing 10 to 15 tons CO2/ha via rapid photosynthesis. After harvest, bast fibers are separated for textiles. Woody herds, shiv, are mixed with lime binder, KO2, and water. The pozzolanic reaction occurs. Hemp shiv silica reacts with lime to form calcium silicate hydrate gels, binding the mix into a lightweight, breathable composite. Over months, atmospheric CO2 reacts with free lime, carbonation, KO2 plus CO2 CaCO3 plus H2O, making hempcrete carbon negative. It stores more CO2 than emitted during production. The porous structure provides insulation, R value 2 to 3 per inch, and vapor permeability, preventing mold. Bioplastics use hemp-derived cellulose or oils polymerized into ball-like chains. Hemp as a building material. Mycelium composites. Fungi, e.g., Ganoderma or Pleurotus species, are inoculated onto sterilized agricultural waste. Hemp herds, straw, sawdust, mycelium, thread-like hyphae, grows through the substrate via apical extension, secreting enzymes, cellulases, lignases, that break down lignocellulose. Hyphae physically entangle particles while secreting chitin and glucans that act as natural glue. After 5 to 14 days of colonization, the material is killed, 60 to 80 degrees Celsius, to stop growth, yielding a lightweight, fire-resistant composite. The chitin matrix is fully biodegradable and compostable. Strength comes from the hierarchical fibrous network mimicking wood or cork. Algae and biomass biofuels products. Microalgae, e.g., chlorella, nanochloropsis, enclosed photobioreactors or open ponds use photosynthesis to fix CO2 into lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins. Light drives electron transport in photosystems, splitting water and reducing NADP. Calvin cycle produces sugars. Lipids are extracted via solvent or mechanical pressing, then transesterified. Lipid plus methanol plus catalyst biodiesel plus glycerol. Residual biomass is fermented into biogas or used for bioplastics. Wastewater provides nutrients, creating a closed nutrient loop. The entire process can be carbon negative when CO2 is sourced from industrial flue gas. Plant-inspired biomimicry technologies. Artificial photosynthesis. Artificial leaves. Devices replicate the leaf's Z-scheme. A perovskite or 3V semiconductor layer absorbs photons, exciting electrons across a band gap. Charges separate at a junction, preventing recombination via spatial design. Water oxidation catalyst, e.g., Niox or Copy, splits H2O into O2, protons, and electrons at the anode. Electrons travel to the cathode where a CO2 reduction catalyst, copper nanofluors or T3C2-enzene, reduces CO2 to formate, ethylene, or hydrocarbons. Some biohybrid versions use enzymes or bacteria for higher selectivity. Multi-charge storage molecules. 2025 Basel breakthrough, hold 4 charges stably, enabling continuous operation even in variable light output. Storable solar fuels with 10% efficiency. Artificial photosynthesis as an alternative source of renewable energy. Biomimetic solar trees and transpiration-inspired cooling. Solar trees arrange thin film PV leaves in Fibonacci spirals for omnidirectional light capture. Transpiration-inspired facades use porous hydrogels or capillary channels mimicking stomata and xylem. Water wicks to the surface via capillary action. Evaporation absorbs latent heat, cooling the building 5 to 10 degrees Celsius passively. Hydrophilic hydrophobic patterns direct flow and prevent salt buildup. Living walls add real plant evapotranspiration. Adaptive louvers open close like stomata using humidity-responsive polymers. Biomass-derived hydrogel evaporators for interfacial solar steam generation. Cross-linking chemistry, hierarchical network architecture, and device-level strategies for salt-tolerant desalination. Science directs self-healing and adaptive plant. Mimetic materials vascular networks. 3D printed microchannels inspired by xylem, or embedded microcapsules release healing agents. Epoxy monomers or bacteria, when cracked, exactly like plant wound response resin flow. Intrinsic polymers use reversible Diels-Alder bonds that break and reform under heat or stress. In concrete, bacteria, Bacillus precipitate Caco3 when water enters cracks, sealing them. Result, structures last 2-3x longer with near zero maintenance. These mechanisms, whether biological photosynthesis, root microbe symbiosis, chemical carbonation, fungal binding, or engineered charge separation, work because they copy plants' 3.8 billion year tested efficiency. They require minimal external energy, regenerate themselves, and produce co-benefits, biodiversity, clean air, resilient infrastructure. Scaled together, they form the backbone of a truly circular, regenerative society. Plants are absolutely fundamental to building a sustainable society and protecting the environment. In fact, most natural systems that sustain life on Earth are built around plants. They are the primary producers that convert sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and minerals into biomass and energy that support nearly all ecosystems. Because of this role, plants are at the center of solutions for climate stability, biodiversity protection, food systems, materials, energy, and environmental restoration. Seedling. Below is a comprehensive explanation of why plants are essential for sustainability and environmental protection. Plants produce oxygen and maintain the atmosphere. Plants perform photosynthesis, one of the most important biological processes on Earth. Through this process, plants absorb carbon dioxide CO2 from the atmosphere and use sunlight to convert it into sugars that build plant tissues. During photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere. Oxygen is released as a byproduct. Solar energy is stored in chemical form. Without plants, atmospheric oxygen would eventually decline while carbon dioxide would rise dramatically. The oxygen humans and animals breathe is largely produced by plants and microscopic photosynthetic organisms. Forests, grasslands, wetlands, and marine plants collectively act as the planet's life support system. Plants regulate the global climate. Plants are one of the most powerful natural tools for regulating the climate. Through carbon sequestration, plants absorb carbon dioxide and store it in trunks, branches, leaves, roots, soil, organic matter. Large ecosystems such as the Amazon rainforest, Congo basin, and boreal forest store hundreds of billions of tons of carbon. Plants also cool the planet by releasing water vapor through transpiration, reflecting sunlight, creating clouds and rainfall. Because of this, vegetation acts as a natural climate stabilizer. Plants form the base of all food systems. Plants are the foundation of every food web on Earth. All animals, including humans, ultimately depend on plant energy because plants are primary producers. Plants provide fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, legumes, oils. Animal feed agriculture is essentially the cultivation of plants to capture solar energy and convert it into food. Without plants, food chains collapse. Plants build and protect soil. Healthy soils are formed largely through plant activity. Plants contribute to soil formation by shedding leaves and organic matter, growing roots that stabilize soil, feeding soil microbes, preventing erosion. Plant roots also work with mycorrhiza, a symbiotic relationship between fungi and plant roots that allows nutrients and water to circulate through underground networks, sometimes called the wood wide web. This underground ecosystem improves soil fertility, increases water retention, supports biodiversity, stabilizes landscapes. Without plants, soils quickly degrade and desertification can occur. Plants support biodiversity. Plants create the physical structure of ecosystems. Forests, grasslands, wetlands, mangroves, and coral reefs all depend on plants or plant-like organisms to form habitats. A single tree can support insects, birds, fungi, mammals, microorganisms. For example, the oak tree can support hundreds of species of insects, which in turn feed birds and other animals. Protecting plant diversity therefore protects entire ecosystems. Plants clean air, water, and pollution. Plants naturally remove pollution from the environment through several processes. Air purification. Leaves absorb carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate pollution. Urban trees can significantly improve air quality. Water purification. Woodland plants filter pollutants and nutrients from water. Important examples include mangrove cattail. These plants trap sediments, absorb toxins, and prevent coastal erosion. Soil cleanup. Plants can remove heavy metals and toxins through phytoremediation, where plants absorb pollutants and store or break them down. This technique is used to clean contaminated soils and industrial sites. Plants provide sustainable materials. Many sustainable materials come directly from plants, including wood, bamboo, hemp, cotton, natural rubber, plant-based plastics, biofuels. Plants convert solar energy into useful materials, making them a renewable manufacturing system. Bamboo grows extremely fast and can replace timber or plastic in many products. Hemp can produce textiles, insulation, paper, and biodegradable plastics. Plant-based materials are key to replacing fossil fuel-based materials. Plants control water cycles and rainfall. Vegetation strongly influences the global water cycle. Plants release water vapor through transpiration, which helps form clouds and rainfall. Large forests like the Amazon rainforest generate flying rivers of moisture that move across continents. Deforestation can therefore reduce rainfall and intensify droughts. Reforestation and regenerative agriculture restore local and regional water cycles. Plants enable regenerative and circular economies. Plants make circular ecological systems possible. Plant systems recycle nutrients through decomposition, soil microbial activity, ecosystem food webs. In sustainable design approaches like permaculture, plants are used to build systems where waste becomes nutrients. Ecosystems regenerate themselves. Biodiversity increases. Food production integrates with nature. Plants therefore enable self-renewing economies that mimic natural ecosystems. Plants can transform cities into living ecosystems. Plants can turn urban areas into productive ecological systems. Examples include urban forest, green roofs, vertical gardens, food forests, regenerative parks, urban wetland cities that integrate. Plants can reduce heat islands, store carbon, produce food, increase biodiversity, improve human health, manage storm water naturally. Some cities are already moving in this direction, such as Singapore, which has integrated extensive urban greenery into its infrastructure. Plants are not just important for sustainability, they are the foundation of sustainable civilization. They power ecosystems through photosynthesis, stabilize climate, produce food and materials, build soil, regulate water cycles, support biodiversity, remove pollution, enable regenerative economies. A truly sustainable society must therefore be plant-centered and ecosystem-based, designing cities, agriculture, industries, and technologies around plant systems. Plant-inspired technologies, often called biomimetic or bio-inspired technologies, imitate the structure, chemistry, and ecological strategies of plants to create systems that generate energy, clean pollution, produce materials, and regulate climate. Because plants already run the planet's most efficient renewable system, using sunlight, water, minerals, and carbon dioxide to sustain ecosystems, future green cities can be designed to operate like living forest branch with leaves. Artificial photosynthesis systems for clean energy. One of the most important plant-inspired technologies is artificial photosynthesis. Plants perform photosynthesis, in which sunlight drives chemical reactions that convert water and carbon dioxide into sugars and oxygen. Scientists are developing technologies that mimic this process in order to produce fuels and energy. In future green cities, artificial photosynthesis systems could work as follows. Sunlight is captured by advanced light-absorbing materials similar to chlorophyll. Water molecules are split into hydrogen and oxygen using solar energy. Carbon dioxide is captured from the atmosphere or industrial emissions. The hydrogen and carbon dioxide are converted into carbon-neutral fuels such as methanol or synthetic hydrocarbons. These solar fuel systems could be integrated into building wall solar panels, urban energy plants, water treatment systems. Instead of only producing electricity, these systems would generate liquid fuels, chemicals, and energy storage molecules, allowing cities to run transportation, industries, and power grids using sunlight and atmospheric carbon. Solar tree energy systems. Plants evolved to capture sunlight extremely efficiently by arranging their leaves in complex branching structures that maximize light absorption. Engineers are copying this structure to create solar tree systems. Solar trees are energy generators shaped like trees, where the trunk contains electrical wiring and structural support. The branches hold solar panels or photonic collectors. The leaves capture sunlight from many angles. This design allows them to capture sunlight throughout the day more efficiently than flat solar panels. Urban solar trees could be placed in parks, streets, rooftops, public squares, transportation corridors because they occupy very little ground space. Solar trees allow cities to produce large amounts of renewable electricity while maintaining green spaces. Plant-inspired building skins and living architecture. Plants regulate their internal temperature and water balance through leaf surfaces that control sunlight, airflow, and evaporation. Future buildings can mimic these functions through plant-inspired building skins. These building surfaces could include photosynthetic panels, adaptive shading systems, humidity-regulating materials, carbon-absorbing coatings, for example. Building exteriors could imitate leaf structures that open and close tiny pores similar to plant stomata. These pores would control airflow, heat exchange, moisture release, carbon dioxide capture. This would allow buildings to breathe like plants, reducing energy consumption for heating and cooling. Some buildings may also incorporate real vegetation through vertical forests and green facades, similar to the vegetation-integrated architecture seen in projects like Bosco Verticale in Milan. These systems help regulate temperature, filter air pollution, and increase biodiversity in cities. Photonic leaf solar technology. Leaves have evolved complex internal structures that capture and distribute sunlight extremely efficiently. Engineers are studying these structures to design advanced photonic solar systems that manage light at the nanoscale. Photonic materials can trap sunlight inside tiny structures, guide light to energy converting layers, absorb a wider range of wavelengths. These systems mimic the light harvesting mechanisms of plants and algae. In future cities, Photonic solar panels shaped like leaves could cover buildings, vehicles, and infrastructure. Because of their high efficiency, they could produce far more energy than conventional panels. These systems could power electric transportation, building energy systems, urban computing networks, water desalination systems, carbon capturing, urban forest infrastructure. Plants naturally remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through carbon sequestration. Future cities can expand this function by combining biological plants with technological systems. Urban carbon capturing infrastructure could include massive urban forests, algae bioreactors, carbon absorbing building materials, bioengineered trees, artificial photosynthesis panels. Algae systems are particularly powerful because algae grow extremely quickly and can capture large amounts of carbon dioxide. For example, photobioreactors containing microalgae can be built into buildings to absorb carbon dioxide and produce biofuels, oxygen, biomass for materials, animal feed, fertilizers. These systems would allow cities to actively remove carbon dioxide while producing valuable resources. Root-inspired water management systems. Plant roots are extremely efficient at absorbing, storing, and distributing water. Future cities can mimic root systems to create advanced water infrastructure. Root-inspired water systems could include permeable soils beneath cities, underground water storage networks, natural filtration, wetlands. Like irrigation channels, these systems would capture rainwater and distribute it throughout urban ecosystems. Instead of stormwater flooding streets, rainwater would be absorbed into permeable landscapes, filtered through plant-like soil systems, stored underground, reused for irrigation, cooling, and water supply. This approach greatly reduces flooding and increases water security. Forest-inspired energy and resource networks. Forests function as cooperative networks rather than isolated organisms. Through underground fungal networks known as mycorrhiza, trees exchange nutrients, water, and chemical signals. Future cities can mimic this network structure through decentralized energy and resource systems. Instead of one large centralized power plant, cities could operate like forests with many interconnected systems. Neighborhood solar microgrids, local energy storage, distributed water recycling, shared food production systems. These networks increase resilience because energy and resources can flow between different parts of the city. If one area experiences a shortage or failure, other areas can supply support. Plant-based materials for sustainable construction. Plants produce incredibly strong materials using sunlight and atmospheric carbon. Examples include wood, bamboo, cellulose fibers, lignin structures. Future cities could rely heavily on plant-derived materials. Advanced materials made from plants include engineered timber, cellulose, nanomaterials, biodegradable plastics, plant-based insulation, carbon-negative construction materials. One important example is cross-laminated timber, which allows tall buildings to be constructed using engineered wood rather than concrete and steel. These materials store carbon instead of emitting it, helping cities become carbon negative. Urban food forest systems. Plants naturally form layered ecosystems that produce food while maintaining biodiversity. Future cities could incorporate urban food forests that mimic rainforest ecosystems. These systems include multiple layers, tall fruit and nut trees, smaller fruit trees, shrubs, vegetables, herbs, root crops, mushrooms. Food forests can produce large quantities of food while improving soil, capturing carbon, and supporting wildlife. They transform cities from food consumers into food-producing ecosystems. Self-regenerating ecological cities. Ultimately, plant-inspired technologies allow cities to function like ecosystems. In a forest, energy comes from sunlight, waste becomes nutrients, biodiversity stabilizes the system, resources circulate continuously. Future green cities can operate the same way. Energy systems would capture sunlight, carbon, and water just like plants do. Materials would be biodegradable and recyclable. Waste streams would become resources for new processes. Such cities would gradually increase environmental health instead of degrading it. Plant-inspired technologies as the foundation of future green cities. The future of sustainable civilization depends on a profound shift in how cities are designed, powered, and integrated with the natural world. For most of human history, urban systems have functioned in opposition to nature, extracting resources, generating waste, and disrupting ecological cycles. However, plants demonstrate a radically different model of operation, one that is regenerative, efficient, and deeply interconnected. By studying and emulating plant systems, humanity can redesign cities to function more like living ecosystems. Plant-inspired technologies, rooted in the principles of photosynthesis, nutrient cycling, and ecological cooperation, offer a blueprint for cities that produce energy, clean the environment, and sustain life in a continuous, self-renewing cycle. At the core of plant-based design is the concept of capturing and transforming solar energy. Plants have perfected the ability to convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into usable energy through photosynthesis. This process not only fuels plant growth, but also forms the energetic foundation of nearly all life on Earth. In future green cities, technologies inspired by this process, particularly artificial photosynthesis, could enable buildings and infrastructure to generate fuel directly from sunlight and atmospheric carbon dioxide. Unlike conventional solar panels, which produce only electricity, artificial photosynthesis systems can create energy-dense fuels such as hydrogen or carbon-based liquids. These fuels can be stored, transported, and used across multiple sectors, including transportation, industry, and energy storage. In this way, cities could operate as distributed energy producers, transforming sunlight into a continuous flow of usable energy without relying on fossil fuels. The physical structure of plants also offers critical insights into efficient energy capture. Trees, for example, maximize their exposure to sunlight through branching architectures that distribute leaves in three-dimensional space. This principle has inspired the development of solar tree systems, vertical, branching structures equipped with photovoltaic or photonic leaves. These systems can capture sunlight from multiple angles throughout the day, significantly increasing energy generation per unit of land. In dense urban environments where space is limited, solar trees can be integrated into streets, parks, and rooftops, providing clean energy without displacing other functions. In this sense, energy infrastructure becomes both spatially efficient and visually integrated into the urban landscape, blending technology with nature. Beyond energy generation, plant-inspired technologies can transform buildings into dynamic, living systems. Plant leaves regulate temperature, moisture, and gas exchange through microscopic structures known as stomata. These pores open and close in response to environmental conditions, allowing plants to maintain internal balance. Future buildings can replicate these mechanisms through adaptive facades that respond to sunlight, temperature, and air quality. Such facades could regulate airflow, capture carbon dioxide, and control heat exchange, drastically reducing the need for mechanical heating and cooling systems. Some buildings may even incorporate real vegetation into their structure, forming vertical forests that provide insulation, absorb pollutants, and support biodiversity. Projects like Bosco Vertical in Milan demonstrate the early stages of this approach, where architecture and plant life merge into a single, functional system. Equally important is the role of plants in regulating the atmosphere and climate through carbon sequestration. Plants absorb carbon dioxide and store it in their tissues and in the soil, effectively removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. Future cities can expand this function by integrating both natural and engineered carbon capturing systems. Urban forests, green corridors, and rooftop gardens can work alongside algae bioreactors and carbon-absorbing materials to create a multi-layered carbon management system. Algae, in particular, offer remarkable efficiency in capturing carbon and converting it into biomass. When integrated into urban infrastructure, algae systems can produce biofuels, fertilizers, and even food, turning carbon emissions into valuable resources. In this way, cities can shift from being sources of pollution to active participants in climate stabilization. Water management is another domain where plant-inspired design can revolutionize urban systems. Plant roots form intricate networks that absorb, store, and distribute water with extraordinary efficiency. These systems also filter impurities and stabilize soil, preventing erosion. By mimicking root structures, cities can develop decentralized water systems that capture rainwater, filter it naturally, and redistribute it where needed. Permeable surfaces, constructed wetlands, and underground storage networks can replace traditional storm water systems, reducing flooding and improving water quality. Instead of rapidly channeling water away, cities would retain and recycle it, creating a resilient and sustainable water cycle. Perhaps one of the most profound lessons from plants lies in their ability to form cooperative networks. Forests are not collections of isolated trees, they are interconnected systems linked by underground fungal networks known as mycorrhiza. Through these networks, plants exchange nutrients, share information, and support one another during stress. This decentralized, cooperative model can inspire new forms of urban infrastructure. Rather than relying on centralized systems, future cities can operate as networks of interconnected microsystems, local energy grids, water systems, and food production units that share resources dynamically. This approach increases resilience, as the failure of one component does not collapse the entire system. Instead, the city behaves like an ecosystem, adapting and redistributing resources as conditions change. In addition to energy, water, and infrastructure, plants also provide a model for sustainable material production. Through growth processes powered by sunlight, plants create strong, lightweight, and biodegradable materials. Modern technologies are beginning to replicate and enhance these materials, leading to innovations such as engineered wood and cross-laminated timber. These materials can replace carbon-intensive substances like concrete and steel, significantly reducing the environmental impact of construction. Because they store carbon rather than emit it, plant-based materials contribute to climate mitigation while enabling new forms of architecture. Food production, too, can be transformed through plant-inspired design. Natural ecosystems such as forests produce abundant food without monocultures, chemical inputs, or soil degradation. By adopting similar principles, cities can develop urban food forests, multi-layered systems that combine trees, shrubs, vegetables, and fungi in a single, integrated environment. These systems not only produce food but also enhance biodiversity, improve soil health, and capture carbon. As a result, cities can become partially self-sufficient in food production while restoring ecological balance. Ultimately, plant-inspired technologies enable a shift from linear, extractive systems to circular, regenerative ones. In a plant-based model, waste does not exist. Every output becomes an input for another process. Organic matter decomposes and returns nutrients to the soil, energy flows continuously from the sun, and ecosystems maintain balance through diversity and cooperation. When applied to urban design, these principles can transform cities into self-sustaining systems that generate their own energy, recycle their own resources, and continuously improve their surrounding environment. In conclusion, plants offer far more than aesthetic or ecological value. They provide a comprehensive blueprint for sustainable civilization. By emulating their processes, structures, and networks, Future green cities can become living systems that integrate energy production, resource management, and environmental restoration. These cities will not merely reduce their impact on the planet, they will actively enhance it. In doing so, humanity can move beyond sustainability toward a regenerative relationship with Earth, creating urban environments that are as dynamic, resilient, and life-supporting as the forests that inspired them. Plants are not just important for forming a sustainable society and protecting the environment, they are fundamental and irreplaceable. Every stable ecosystem on Earth, and nearly every resource that human civilization depends on, ultimately traces back to plants. They function as the biological engines of the planet, continuously generating energy, regulating climate, supporting biodiversity, and maintaining the air, water, and soil systems that make life possible. To understand their importance, it helps to see plants not as passive organisms, but as active environmental engineers that shape Earth's systems at every level. The foundation of life, energy and oxygen production. Plants sustain life through photosynthesis, a process that converts sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into chemical energy. This energy becomes the foundation of all food chains. Through this process, plants produce the oxygen that humans and animals breathe, store solar energy in the form of biomass, provide the base energy source for nearly all ecosystems. Without plants, there would be no continuous supply of oxygen and no primary source of energy for life. In this sense, plants are the starting point of all biological productivity on Earth. Climate regulation and carbon balance. Plants play a central role in stabilizing Earth's climate through carbon sequestration. They absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in trunks and stems, leaves, roots, soil, organic matter. Large ecosystems such as the Amazon rainforest, the Congo basin, and the boreal forest act as massive carbon reservoirs that regulate global temperatures. In addition, plants cool the environment by releasing water vapor through transpiration. This process lowers surface temperatures, contributes to cloud formation, helps regulate rainfall patterns. Without plant systems, the climate would become far more unstable, with higher temperatures, reduced rainfall, and increased extreme weather. The basis of food systems and human survival. All human food systems depend directly or indirectly on plants. Plants provide fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and legumes, oils and sugars. Feed for livestock. Even meat production depends on plants, since animals consume plant matter or plant-based feed. This means plants are not just part of the food system, they are the entire foundation of it. A sustainable society must therefore protect and enhance plant productivity through regenerative agriculture and ecosystem-based food systems. Soil creation and land stability. Healthy soil, which is essential for agriculture and ecosystems, is largely created and maintained by plants. Plants add organic matter to the soil through leaves and roots, prevent erosion by anchoring soil with root systems, feed microorganisms that recycle nutrients. They also form symbiotic relationships with fungi through mycorrhiza, allowing nutrients and water to move efficiently through underground networks. Without plants, soils degrade quickly, leading to desertification, reduced food production, and ecosystem collapse. Biodiversity and ecosystem support. Plants form the structural and functional backbone of ecosystems. They create habitats and provide food for insects, birds, mammals, fungi, microorganisms. For example, a single oak tree can support hundreds of insect species, which in turn support birds and other wildlife. Because of this, protecting plant diversity automatically protects entire ecosystems. When plant systems are degraded, biodiversity declines rapidly. Air, water, and pollution control. Plants naturally purify the environment through several mechanisms. They improve air quality by absorbing carbon dioxide, filtering pollutants, capturing particulate matter. They improve water quality by filtering contaminants in wetlands, stabilizing riverbanks, reducing runoff and pollution. Plants such as mangrove forests and cattail wetlands act as natural filtration systems, protecting both freshwater and coastal ecosystems. Plants can also remove toxins from soil through phytoremediation, helping to clean polluted environments. Water cycle regulation. Plants play a major role in regulating the global and local water cycles. Through transpiration, they release water vapor into the atmosphere, which contributes to cloud formation, rainfall patterns, regional climate stability. Large forests like the Amazon rainforest generate atmospheric moisture flows that influence rainfall across entire continents. Deforestation disrupts these cycles, often leading to droughts and reduced agricultural productivity. Renewable materials and sustainable industry. Plants provide renewable raw materials for human use, including wood and timber fibers such as cotton and hemp, natural rubber, plant-based chemicals, and plastics. Because plants grow using sunlight and atmospheric carbon, they can replace fossil fuel-based materials with renewable, biodegradable alternatives. This makes them essential for building a circular and sustainable economy, enabling regenerative systems and circular economies. Plants are central to regenerative systems because they naturally recycle nutrients, build soil fertility, support biodiversity, create self-sustaining ecosystems, and design approaches like permaculture. Plants are used to create systems where waste becomes a resource and ecosystems improve over time. This model is critical for transitioning from extractive systems to self-renewing, regenerative societies, transforming cities into sustainable ecosystems. Plants can also reshape urban environments into healthier and more sustainable systems. Urban vegetation such as trees, green roofs, vertical gardens, urban forests can reduce urban heat, improve air quality, manage stormwater, enhance mental and physical health, increase biodiversity. Cities that integrate plants effectively, such as Singapore, demonstrate how urban environments can function more like ecosystems. Plants as the core of sustainable civilization. In a comprehensive sense, plants are the foundation of environmental stability and sustainable society. They power life through photosynthesis, regulate climate and atmospheric balance, support food systems, build and protect soil, sustain biodiversity, clean air, water, and land, regulate water cycles, provide renewable materials, enable regenerative economic systems. A sustainable future is not possible without protecting, restoring, and integrating plant systems into every aspect of human life. Ultimately, the closer human society aligns itself with plant-based and ecosystem-based processes, the more stable, abundant, and resilient it becomes. Branch with leaves. The fundamental role of plants in building a sustainable society and protecting the environment. Plants are the foundation upon which life on Earth is built, and their importance to a sustainable society cannot be overstated. Every stable ecosystem, every breathable atmosphere, and nearly every resource that human civilization depends upon is directly or indirectly supported by plant life. To understand sustainability in a meaningful way, one must recognize that plants are not merely components of the environment, they are the primary systems that regulate and sustain it. A truly sustainable society is, at its core, one that aligns itself with the processes and functions of plants. At the heart of this relationship is photosynthesis, the biological process through which plants convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into chemical energy. This process forms the energetic basis of life on Earth. By transforming solar energy into sugars and biomass, plants create the energy that fuels nearly all food webs. At the same time, they release oxygen as a byproduct, maintaining the atmospheric balance necessary for respiration in animals and humans. Without this continuous conversion of sunlight into usable energy, life as we know it would not exist. In this sense, plants are not simply part of the system, they are the engine that drives it. Beyond energy production, plants play a central role in regulating the Earth's climate. Through carbon sequestration, plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in their tissues and in the soil. Forests, grasslands, and wetlands act as vast carbon reservoirs, stabilizing global temperatures and mitigating climate change. Major ecosystems such as the Amazon rainforest, the Congo basin, and the boreal forest collectively store immense quantities of carbon, preventing it from accumulating in the atmosphere. In addition, plants influence climate through transpiration, releasing water vapor that cools the air and contributes to cloud formation and rainfall. These processes demonstrate that plants are deeply embedded in the regulation of Earth's climate systems, making them indispensable in efforts to combat global warming. Plants also form the foundation of all food systems. Every calorie consumed by humans originates, directly or indirectly, from plant life. Crops such as grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nuts are direct products of plant growth, while livestock depends on plant-based feed. This means that agriculture itself is essentially the management of plant systems to capture solar energy and convert it into food. A sustainable society must therefore prioritize the health and diversity of plant systems, adopting practices that enhance soil fertility, biodiversity, and ecosystem resilience rather than degrading them. The relationship between plants and soil further underscores their importance. Soil is not an inert substance but a living system largely shaped by plant activity. Through the shedding of leaves, root growth, and interactions with microorganisms, plants continuously build and maintain soil structure and fertility. Their roots anchor the soil, preventing erosion, while their organic matter feeds a vast network of microbes and fungi. Among the most important of these relationships is mycorrhiza, a symbiotic association between plant roots and fungi that facilitates the exchange of nutrients and water. This underground network enhances the resilience and productivity of ecosystems, illustrating how plants actively engineer the environments in which they grow. In addition to supporting soil and food systems, plants are essential for maintaining biodiversity. They provide both the physical structure and the energy base for ecosystems, creating habitats for countless species of animals, insects, fungi, and microorganisms. For example, a single oak tree can support hundreds of species, forming the backbone of a complex ecological network. When plant diversity declines, entire ecosystems can collapse, leading to the loss of species and ecological functions. Protecting plant life is therefore synonymous with protecting biodiversity as a whole. Plants also serve as natural purification systems for air, water, and soil. Through their leaves, they absorb pollutants and filter particulate matter from the air, improving air quality in both natural and urban environments. In aquatic systems, plants such as mangrove forests and cattail wetlands filter water, trapping sediments and absorbing harmful substances. Additionally, plants can remove toxins from contaminated soils through phytoremediation, a process that uses plant metabolism to break down or store pollutants. These natural purification functions are essential for maintaining environmental health and reducing the impact of human activities. Another critical role of plants lies in regulating the water cycle. Through transpiration, plants release water vapor into the atmosphere, contributing to cloud formation and precipitation. Large forest systems, particularly the Amazon rainforest, generate significant amounts of atmospheric moisture, influencing rainfall patterns across vast regions. This process helps maintain stable climates and supports agricultural productivity. When plant cover is removed, these water cycles are disrupted, often leading to drought, reduced rainfall, and environmental degradation. Plants are also central to the development of sustainable materials and industries. Many of the resources used in construction, textiles, and manufacturing, such as wood, cotton, and natural fibers, are derived from plants. Unlike fossil fuels and synthetic materials, plant-based resources are renewable and biodegradable. Advances in technology are expanding the potential of plant-based materials, enabling the creation of strong, lightweight, and sustainable alternatives to conventional materials. By relying on plant-derived resources, societies can reduce their environmental footprint and move toward a circular economy in which materials are continuously regenerated. Furthermore, plants enable the design of regenerative systems that mimic natural ecosystems. In approaches such as permaculture, plants are used to create self-sustaining systems where waste is minimized and resources are continuously recycled. These systems demonstrate how human activities can be integrated into natural processes, resulting in environments that become more productive and resilient over time. Rather than depleting resources, such systems enhance them, offering a model for sustainable development. In urban environments, the integration of plant systems can transform cities into healthier and more sustainable spaces. Urban trees, green roofs, and vertical gardens can reduce heat, improve air quality, manage storm water, and enhance human well-being. Cities like Singapore illustrate how extensive integration of vegetation can create environments that are both densely populated and ecologically vibrant. By incorporating plants into urban design, cities can move closer to functioning as ecosystems rather than isolated human constructs. In conclusion, plants are the cornerstone of both environmental protection and sustainable society. They provide energy, regulate climate, support food systems, build soil, sustain biodiversity, purify the environment, and enable regenerative cycles. Without them, the systems that sustain life would collapse. A sustainable future therefore depends on recognizing the central role of plants and designing human systems that align with their processes. By protecting and restoring plant life, humanity not only preserves the natural world, but also secures the foundation for its own long-term survival and prosperity. Branched with leaves. What are the best natural solutions and plant-based technologies to create a sustainable society and industries? The most effective path to a truly sustainable society is to build human systems that function like ecosystems, especially like forests. Plants already demonstrate how to generate energy, produce materials, recycle nutrients, and regulate climate using only sunlight, water, and atmospheric gases. By combining natural solutions with plant-based technologies, we can redesign industries to become regenerative, circular, and self-sustaining. Photosynthesis-based energy and fuel systems. At the core of all sustainable systems is photosynthesis, which converts sunlight into usable energy. Natural solution: protect and expand forest, grasslands, algae ecosystems. These systems already capture vast amounts of solar energy and carbon. Plant-based technologies: artificial photosynthesis systems that produce fuels, hydrogen, methanol, algae bioreactors that convert CO2 into biomass and biofuels, biosolar refineries that mimic plant metabolism. Industrial impact: replace fossil fuels with solar-derived fuels, enable carbon-neutral or carbon-negative energy systems, integrate fuel production directly into cities and infrastructure. Regenerative agriculture and food forest systems. Industrial agriculture is one of the largest sources of environmental damage. The solution is to mimic natural ecosystems. Natural solution: adopt ecosystem-based farming such as permaculture, agroforestry, regenerative agriculture, food forest. These systems imitate natural plant communities. Plant-based technologies: precision agroecology, AI plus sensors to optimize plant growth, naturally perennial crop systems, soil microbiome engineering, nitrogen-fixing plant systems. Industrial impact: eliminates need for synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, restores soil fertility and biodiversity, produces more diverse and resilient food systems. Plant-based materials and biomanufacturing. Plants already manufacture strong, lightweight, and biodegradable materials using sunlight and carbon dioxide. Natural solution: grow materials instead of extracting them. Plant-based technologies: engineered wood like cross-laminated timber, cellulose, nanomaterials, hemp-based composites, mycelium-based materials, fungi grown like plants. Plant-based bioplastics. Industrial impact: replace concrete, steel, and plastics, create carbon-negative construction, enable biodegradable manufacturing systems. Carbon capture through living systems. Plants are the most effective carbon capture technology on Earth. Natural solution: reforestation, afforestation, wetland restoration, soil carbon restoration. Key ecosystems include Amazon rainforest, Congo basin, coastal mangroves. Plant-based technologies: enhanced carbon sequestration systems, algae carbon capture farms, biochar production, storing carbon in soil, carbon absorbing building materials. Industrial impact: turn cities into carbon sinks, offset emissions from hard to decarbonize sectors, stabilize the global climate. Water systems inspired by plants. Plants regulate and recycle water extremely efficiently. Natural solution: restore wetlands, protect watersheds, increase vegetation cover. Plants like mangrove and cattail naturally filter water. Plant-based technologies: constructed wetlands for wastewater treatment, root-inspired filtration systems, atmospheric water harvesting using plant-like materials, green infrastructure, rain gardens, bioswales. Industrial impact: eliminate chemical, heavy water treatment, reduce flooding and drought risk, create closed-loop water systems. Forest-inspired networked infrastructure. Forests function through cooperation and resource sharing. Through mycorrhiza, plants exchange nutrients and information. Natural solution, preserve and restore interconnected ecosystems. Plant-based technologies, decentralized energy microgrids, distributed food systems, circular waste to resource networks, smart ecological infrastructure, industrial impact. Increased resilience and efficiency, reduced reliance on centralized systems, adaptive, self-regulating cities. Phytoremediation and pollution cleanup. Plants naturally clean polluted environments. Natural solution, use ecosystems to absorb and break down pollution. Plant-based technologies, phytoremediation systems, hyperaccumulator plants that absorb heavy metals, algae systems for wastewater and air purification, industrial impact. Clean contaminated soil and water, reduce need for expensive industrial cleanup, restore damaged ecosystems. Plant-inspired architecture and urban design. Plants regulate temperature, airflow, and energy efficiently. Natural solution, integrate vegetation into cities. Plant-based technologies, green roofs and vertical forests, bioreactive, building facades, plant-like ventilation systems, solar leaf and tree structures. Examples include buildings like Bosco Verticale in Milan. Industrial impact, reduce energy use in buildings, improve air quality, enhance human health and biodiversity. Circular bioeconomy systems. Plants operate in closed-loop cycles where nothing is wasted. Natural solution, design systems where waste becomes input, nutrients are continuously recycled. Plant-based technologies, bioraffineries converting biomass into fuels, chemicals, and materials, composting and nutrient recovery systems, biodegradable product design. Industrial impact, eliminate waste, reduce pollution, create regenerative production cycles. Urban forests and ecosystem-based cities. Cities can function like forests. Natural solution, urban forest green corridors, biodiversity zone. Cities like Singapore are early examples of this approach. Plant-based technologies, integrated urban farming systems, AI-managed ecosystem infrastructure, climate-responsive vegetation networks. Industrial impact, cities produce food, energy, and materials, improve climate resilience, healthier living environments. The forest model of industry. The most powerful insight is this: backhand index finger pointing right. A forest is the most advanced sustainable system on Earth. It runs entirely on sunlight, stores carbon, produces food and materials, recycles all waste, supports massive biodiversity, stabilizes climate and water cycles. The future of sustainable society is to turn industries into technological forests. The best natural solutions in plant-based technologies are those that harness sunlight like plants, capture and store carbon, regenerate soil and ecosystems, recycle water and nutrients, produce biodegradable materials, operate in decentralized, interconnected networks. By combining natural ecosystems with advanced plant-inspired technologies, humanity can build a society that is carbon negative, self-sustaining, biodiverse, resilient, abundant. If you want, I can go even deeper and show you how to design a fully plant-powered city step by step, how industries can become production rainforests, or how to transform Earth into a highly abundant, fully regenerative world using these systems. Building a sustainable society and transforming industries requires more than reducing harm. It requires redesigning human systems so they function like living ecosystems. The most effective approach is to combine natural solutions, restoring and working with ecosystems, with plant-based technologies, engineering systems inspired by how plants function. Plants already demonstrate how to generate energy, create materials, regulate climate, recycle nutrients, and sustain biodiversity using only sunlight, water, and atmospheric gases. By understanding these processes deeply, we can replicate them at the scale of cities and industries. Photosynthesis-based energy and fuel systems. The foundation of all sustainable systems is photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into chemical energy. This process is the original model for renewable energy. In nature, plants capture solar energy and store it in the form of biomass. Human technologies can replicate and enhance this process through artificial photosynthesis, which uses sunlight to split water into hydrogen and oxygen and combine carbon dioxide into fuels. These fuels can include hydrogen, methanol, or synthetic hydrocarbons, all of which can power transportation, industry, and electricity systems. In a sustainable society, buildings, infrastructure, and energy facilities could function like artificial leaves, continuously producing fuel and energy from sunlight and atmospheric carbon. This would eliminate dependence on fossil fuels and allow energy production to become decentralized and renewable. Regenerative agriculture and ecosystem-based food systems. Modern industrial agriculture often degrades soil, reduces biodiversity, and relies heavily on chemical inputs. In contrast, natural ecosystems maintain fertility and productivity indefinitely. Approaches such as permaculture, agroforestry, and regenerative agriculture are designed to mimic natural plant systems. These systems integrate trees, crops, and soil organisms into diverse, self-sustaining ecosystems. Plants improve soil by adding organic matter, supporting microbial life, and preventing erosion. Through symbiotic relationships such as mycorrhiza, plant roots connect with fungi to exchange nutrients and water efficiently. This creates a living soil network that continuously regenerates fertility. In a sustainable society, food production would shift toward these ecosystem-based systems, producing abundant, diverse food while restoring land and increasing biodiversity. Plant-based materials and biomanufacturing. Plants are natural manufacturers that use sunlight and carbon dioxide to produce strong and complex materials. These include wood, fibers, and biochemical compounds. Modern technology can transform these natural materials into advanced products such as engineered wood, biodegradable plastics, and plant-based composites. One example is cross-laminated timber, which allows large buildings to be constructed using layered wood instead of steel or concrete. Because plant-based materials store carbon, their use can make industries carbon negative rather than carbon emitting. In addition, these materials are biodegradable or recyclable, reducing pollution and waste. In a sustainable industrial system, materials would be grown, harvested, and regenerated continuously, replacing extractive and polluting manufacturing processes. Carbon capture through living systems. Plants are the most effective carbon capture systems on Earth. Through carbon sequestration, they absorb carbon dioxide and store it in their tissues and in the soil. Large ecosystems such as the Amazon rainforest, the Congo basin, and the boreal forest play a critical role in regulating global carbon levels. Sustainable societies can expand these natural systems through reforestation, wetland restoration, and soil regeneration. In addition, technologies such as algae bioreactors can accelerate carbon capture by rapidly converting carbon dioxide into biomass. This approach allows cities and industries to become carbon sinks, actively removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere rather than contributing to them. Water systems inspired by plants. Plants manage water with remarkable efficiency. Their roots absorb water, store it, and distribute it throughout the plant, while their leaves regulate water loss through transpiration. Natural ecosystems also filter and purify water. Wetland plants such as mangrove and cattail remove pollutants, trap sediments, and stabilize shorelines. Cities can mimic these processes through green infrastructure, including constructed wetlands, permeable landscapes, and root-inspired filtration systems. These systems capture rainwater, clean it naturally, and recycle it for reuse. As a result, water systems become decentralized and regenerative, reducing the need for energy-intensive treatment plants and preventing flooding and water scarcity. Forest-inspired networked infrastructure. Forests operate as interconnected systems rather than isolated organisms. Through underground fungal networks known as mycorrhiza, plants exchange nutrients, water, and information. This model can be applied to human infrastructure by creating decentralized networks for energy, water, and resources. Instead of relying on a single centralized system, cities can use interconnected microgrids and local production systems. These networks allow resources to flow dynamically, increasing resilience and efficiency. If one part of the system fails, others can compensate, just as in a forest ecosystem. Phytoremediation and pollution cleanup. Plants have the ability to clean polluted environments through phytoremediation. They can absorb heavy metals, break down toxins, and filter contaminants from soil and water. Certain plants, known as hyperaccumulators, are particularly effective at absorbing pollutants. Algae systems can also clean wastewater and capture pollutants from the air. By using plants as natural cleanup systems, industries can reduce reliance on chemical and mechanical methods, restoring ecosystems while removing pollution. Plant-inspired architecture and urban design. Plants regulate temperature, airflow, and moisture through their structures. Buildings can mimic these functions to become more energy efficient and environmentally integrated. Green roofs, vertical gardens, and living walls incorporate vegetation into urban environments, improving insulation, air quality, and biodiversity. Advanced building designs can also include adaptive facades that respond to environmental conditions, similar to how plant leaves adjust to sunlight and temperature. An example of this approach is Bosco Verticale in Milan, where buildings are integrated with dense vegetation. Such designs transform cities into living systems that regulate themselves naturally. Circular bioeconomy systems. In natural ecosystems, waste does not exist. All materials are continuously recycled through biological processes. A sustainable society can adopt this model by creating a circular bioeconomy in which organic waste is converted into nutrients, energy, and new materials. Biorefineries can process plant biomass into fuels, chemicals, and products, while composting systems return nutrients to the soil. This eliminates waste and pollution while maintaining continuous resource flows. Urban forests and ecosystem-based cities. Cities can be redesigned to function like forests, with interconnected systems of vegetation, water, and energy. Urban forests, green corridors, and integrated food systems can provide climate regulation, air purification, food production. Biodiversity support. Cities such as Singapore demonstrate how integrating vegetation into urban design can create more livable and sustainable environments. In these cities, infrastructure and ecosystems work together rather than in opposition. Conclusion: toward a plant-based civilization. The most effective natural solutions in plant-based technologies are those that replicate the fundamental principles of plant systems. These principles include capturing solar energy, recycling nutrients, storing carbon, supporting biodiversity, and operating in interconnected networks. By applying these principles, human society can transition from an extractive model to a regenerative one. Industries can become systems that produce energy, materials, and resources while improving the environment. Cities can function as ecosystems that sustain both human life and biodiversity. Ultimately, plants provide a complete blueprint for sustainability. By learning from and working with plant systems, humanity can create a future that is not only sustainable, but also resilient, abundant, and in harmony with the natural world. To fully understand how a sustainable society can be built using natural solutions and plant-based technologies, it is essential to go beyond listing them and examine how each system actually works in detail. These systems are not isolated innovations, they are interconnected processes modeled on how plants and ecosystems function. Plants operate through energy capture, chemical transformation, biological cooperation, and continuous recycling. The technologies inspired by them replicate these same mechanisms in engineered forms. How photosynthesis-based energy systems work. The foundation of plant-inspired energy systems is photosynthesis, which occurs inside plant cells and structures called chloroplasts. In natural photosynthesis, the process works step by step. Light absorption, pigments such as chlorophyll absorb sunlight. Water splitting, the absorbed energy is used to split water molecules into hydrogen ions, electrons, and oxygen. Energy conversion, the electrons move through an energy transport chain, generating chemical energy in the form of ATP and NADPH. Carbon fixation, carbon dioxide is captured and combined with hydrogen to form glucose, a sugar molecule. This glucose stores solar energy in chemical form. Plant-inspired systems replicate this through artificial photosynthesis. In these systems, light-absorbing materials, such as semiconductors, capture sunlight. Catalysts split water into hydrogen and oxygen. Carbon dioxide is chemically reduced using the hydrogen to form fuels like methanol or synthetic hydrocarbons. Unlike traditional solar panels, which only generate electricity, these systems store energy in chemical bonds, allowing it to be used later for transportation, heating, or industrial processes. How regenerative agriculture systems work. Regenerative agriculture mimics natural ecosystems to maintain fertility and productivity indefinitely. It is closely aligned with permaculture principles. In natural ecosystems, soil fertility is maintained through continuous biological processes. Plants grow and produce biomass. Leaves, roots, and organic matter fall to the ground. Microorganisms decompose this material into nutrients. These nutrients are reabsorbed by plants. A critical mechanism in the system is mycorrhiza, where fungi connect to plant roots and extend their reach into the soil. These fungi absorb water and minerals, such as phosphorus and nitrogen, exchange them with plants for sugars produced through photosynthesis, connect multiple plants into a nutrient-sharing network. Regenerative agriculture replicates this by avoiding soil disturbance, which protects microbial networks, planting diverse species that support each other using cover crops to protect and enrich soil, integrating trees and crops. Agroforestry, this creates a self-reinforcing cycle of fertility, eliminating the need for synthetic fertilizers. How plant-based materials and biomanufacturing work. Plants manufacture materials through cellular growth processes powered by photosynthesis. Inside plant cells, carbon dioxide is converted into sugars. Sugars are assembled into structural molecules like cellulose and lignin. These molecules form fibers and tissues that give plants strength. Technologies replicate this by using plant-derived substances as raw materials. For example, cross-laminated timber is made by harvesting wood from sustainably grown trees, cutting the wood into layers, gluing layers together in alternating directions, pressing them into strong structural panels. This cross-layering increases strength and stability, allowing wood to replace steel and concrete in construction. Other technologies extract cellulose from plants and restructure it into nanofibers stronger than steel by weight. Biodegradable plastics, lightweight composites, because plants capture carbon during growth. These materials store carbon instead of emitting it. How carbon capture through plants works. Plants remove carbon dioxide through carbon sequestration. This process works as follows. Plants absorb CO2 during photosynthesis. Carbon atoms are incorporated into plant tissues, leaves, stems, roots. When plants shed leaves or die, organic matter enters the soil. Soil microorganisms transform this into stable carbon compounds. Large ecosystems such as the Amazon rainforest, Congo basin, and boreal forests store massive amounts of carbon in both vegetation and soil. Technologies enhance this by growing fast-absorbing plants, like algae, converting biomass into biochar, a stable carbon form, embedding carbon into building materials. This creates long-term carbon storage, reducing atmospheric CO2 levels. How plant-inspired water systems work. Plants regulate water through roots and leaves. The process works like this. Roots absorb water from the soil. Water travels upward through vascular tissues, xylem. Water evaporates from leaves through tiny pores, transpiration. This creates a continuous flow of water through the plant. In ecosystems, plants also slow down water movement, allowing filtration into soil, filter pollutants. Wetland plants such as mangrove and cattail purify water by trapping sediments, absorbing nutrients and toxins, supporting microbes that break down pollutants. Urban systems replicate this using constructed wetlands, permeable surfaces, green infrastructure. These systems store, clean, and recycle water naturally, reducing the need for mechanical treatment. How forest-inspired networks work. Forests function as interconnected systems through mycorrhiza networks. In these networks, fungi connect to plant roots, Fungal filaments spread through the soil. Nutrients and chemical signals travel between plants. Stronger plants can support weaker ones. This creates a distributed, cooperative system. Human systems replicate this through decentralized energy grids, microgrids, local food production networks, shared water systems. These systems allow resources to flow dynamically, improving resilience and efficiency. How phytoremediation works. Phytoremediation uses plants to clean polluted environments. The process works in several ways. Absorption. Plants take up contaminants through their roots. Accumulation. Toxins are stored in plant tissues. Transformation. Some plants chemically break down pollutants. Stabilization. Roots prevent contaminants from spreading. Certain plants specialize in absorbing heavy metals or chemicals. Algae systems also work by absorbing nutrients and pollutants from water, converting them into biomass. This provides a natural, low-energy way to clean ecosystems. How plant-inspired architecture works. Plants regulate temperature and airflow through adaptive structures. For example, leaves orient themselves toward sunlight, open and close pores to regulate gas exchange, release water to cool themselves. Buildings can mimic this by using adaptive facades that adjust to sunlight, ventilation systems that regulate airflow naturally, green roofs and walls that insulate buildings. An example is Bosco Verticale in Milan, where vegetation is integrated into building structures. These systems reduce energy use and improve environmental quality. How circular bioeconomy systems work. In natural ecosystems, materials are continuously recycled. The process works like this. Plants produce biomass. Organisms consume plant material. Waste and dead matter decompose. Nutrients return to the soil. New plants grow using those nutrients. Human systems replicate this through composting organic waste, converting biomass into fuels and materials, recycling nutrients into agriculture. This creates a closed-loop system where waste becomes a resource. How ecosystem-based cities work. Ecosystem-based cities integrate all these systems together. In such cities, energy is generated from sunlight, water is captured and recycled locally, food is produced within urban ecosystems, materials are renewable and biodegradable, waste is continuously reused. Cities like Singapore are early examples of integrating vegetation into urban systems. These cities function more like ecosystems than machines. All of these natural solutions and plant-based technologies work by replicating the core principles of plant systems, capturing solar energy, converting simple inputs into complex outputs, recycling nutrients continuously, cooperating through a network, stabilizing environmental conditions. Plants achieve sustainability not through efficiency alone, but through integration, regeneration, and balance. By understanding how these systems work in detail and applying them to human society, we can transform industries and cities into living systems that not only sustain themselves, but also restore and enrich the environment. This is the pathway to a truly sustainable and regenerative civilization.